ReZero Starting Life in Another World, Volume 4. Volume 4 marks the beginning of Arc 3, Return to the Capital City, and the cover is beautiful Priscilla with her big personality on display, as well as a cool shot of the mysterious owl. Since this is a new arc that introduces a lot of important new characters, we also have introductory pages with cool character models at the beginning of the book. Personally, I love Arc 3, maybe even better than Arc 4, although we'll see about that after I reread all the volumes. Now, I know this sounds incoherent and some people won't understand it, but if I'm being completely honest, I don't enjoy reading Volume 4, and here's why. I've always had this thing where I feel a lot of secondhand embarrassment from fictional characters doing embarrassing things. I know it's not rational, I know it's not real, but I can't help it, and Subaru makes a fool of himself in this one. I'm not talking about the internet meme, haha cringe bro, no, I'm talking about real physical cringe. I swear that when I watched the anime for the first time, that episode in the throne room, I had to pause multiple times because I just couldn't go through it. I want to make this clear, I don't think Volume 4 is poorly written, if anything it's the opposite. Subaru's actions up until this point make a lot of sense. In fact, you can argue that it's because our main character hits such a rock bottom on this volume that the payoff later in the arc, as well as his character growth, are so meaningful. Also, we have to keep in mind that Subaru is 17, and I have not met many mature 17-year-olds. So I don't dislike the book, it's not a bad book, it's just that a few chapters give me a lot of cringe to read and it's painful for me. I know it's weird, it's just a personal opinion. Now, let's delve into why Volume 4 is so painful for me, as well as the good things that do come out of this volume. As always, timestamps are in the description, and let's start with the cringe lord himself, Subaru. My main problem with Subaru in this book is that he's way too arrogant and prideful and just doesn't think. So many situations could have been avoided if he just breathed for 2 seconds instead of saying something stupid. His hubris starts right at the beginning of the book in a dialogue with Emilia where he says that he's the hero who saved the village. Fortunately, he has the self-awareness to quickly realize that he was brave, sure, but the ones who actually did the work were Rem and Roswell. This moment of humility, however, is the only one he has in the entire book. After they arrive from the village and Emilia is speaking with the envoy, Subaru goes down to try and befriend Wilhelm. In isolation, this isn't egregious, it's very in line with Subaru's personality. He's very nosy and likes to poke at things. Let's note some things here though. Number 1, you don't know who this guy is, why would you risk messing with him? Number 2, the envoy is probably related to the royal selection, so anything you say or do in front of this dude can reflect badly on Emilia. And number 3, you end up giving away vital information, such as you're an idiot that's in love with Emilia and can be a weakness of the Emilia camp that can be used for leverage. Later in the story, after the whole adventure with Priscilla and Old Man Rom, Subaru tells Rom what happened at the end of Volume 1 since Rom was unconscious, but he tells this story while Priscilla is there listening. Sure, you don't know yet that Priscilla is a royal candidate, but you don't know who's who in the capital, and Emilia losing her badge was strictly said to be classified information. It's not clear what level of detail Subaru goes through in the story, but Priscilla is very perceptive. She could very well know that Emilia lost her badge and that Felt stole it. Once again, these events in isolation are not very distant from the typical Subaru behavior we know, but still they could have been avoided. Where he really starts screwing up is in the royal ceremony, after Emilia practically begs him to stay put, and I quote, "Subaru, I'm not asking much of you, please let me trust you, okay?" He completely ignores his promise to Emilia and goes to the castle with Priscilla, a rival candidate to the throne. Someone that he already knows does what she pleases. She even calls him a buffoon directly because he didn't consider that she could just use him as leverage or kill him as an intimidation tactic. Just how carefree is this guy? The royal selection is serious business. If you remember, the entire story started with you trying to protect Emilia from a hired assassin. Against Emilia's wishes, Subaru stays there at the royal ceremony. She even says they will discuss this later, which gives major disappointed mom vibes. When you heard this one, you knew you were in trouble. At this point, there's only one thing you can do. Be quiet. I understand you had to be there for your own ego and perhaps for the very logical reason that if anything happens to Emilia, you can just go back and save her with Return by Death. Okay, I understand it. Now, be still, be quiet, don't speak and just listen to the grown-ups talk. Obviously he doesn't do this, and it's this scene in particular that I find so unbearably cringy it pains me to read. It starts with Anastasia being rude to Emilia and Subaru just feels the need to start shouting back at Anastasia, a royal candidate. Bro, first of all, you're a servant boy in the middle of all these important people. Quoting Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, know your role and shut your mouth. Second of all, every embarrassing thing you do reflects poorly on Emilia, the woman you're trying to make queen. Can you not control your emotions for 10 minutes? Thankfully, Al saves him from any embarrassment by just playing the fool. Al is a huge bro, by the way. We'll talk about him shortly. Then, Subaru decides to interrupt the little theater Roswell and Puck were doing, and now everyone is aware of him. Obviously, they ask who is he and what's his relationship to Emilia. And the dude just says in front of everyone, the knights, the candidates, the elders, that he's Emilia's knight. Why? Why embarrass yourself? I can't handle the cringe. Why would you say that? Stop it. Stop it. Behave. He felt the temperature drop, even colder than when Puck had appeared. It's crazy how fiction imitates real life because I was also shivering from all the cringe. I know, Subaru can't read the room and all that, but this isn't really reading the room, this is legitimately being mentally challenged. If you're going to make an outrageous statement like that, without Emilia's consent by the way, she tried to stop him, at least have the decency of following Al's lead and distancing yourself from the label of knight, which clearly holds a lot of meaning for these people. You literally just watched Al introduce himself like a few minutes ago, what are you doing? And now obviously all the knights are angry with Subaru. Julius starts questioning Subaru and then he still tries to go for some witty comebacks like making fun of the knights for raising their swords. My dude, please cut your losses, accept you embarrass yourself and just leave. Do not bring further shame onto Emilia, who you're representing by the way, and your reputation is now that of an idiot, so how about not making it even worse? But he keeps going! Even though I know what is going to happen, it's this piece of dialogue in particular that always gives me so much cringe. It's just Julius verbally destroying Subaru and Subaru digging himself into a deeper and deeper hole, embarrassing himself in front of everyone at the ceremony. Julius even gives us this great line here. You understand that you are lacking in strength? Did you declare it so loudly in expectation of a reward? Weakness is a matter of shame, not pride. When Ram or Beatrice make fun of Subaru, it's funny because you know deep down they actually care for him. Here it's just vicious, with Julius going straight for the jugular. Then, when it's obvious that Emilia is very disappointed in him and that he should leave, what does our boy Subaru do? He just goes and doubles down. Holy crap, just please stop the pain. Stop the pain. He tries to insult Julius, who just dismisses it, and Emilia has to physically drag him away out of the ceremony, guys. It's just, why? Why would it get to this point? When they're leaving, one of the elders says that Emilia at least has one good vassal, to which she replies that Subaru is no vassal of hers, which really hurts Subaru. At this point, I don't feel sorry for Subaru, he deserves that she said that, and I disagree with the elder. I don't think a vassal that puts his own ego and his own pride over his queen's wishes is a good vassal. Then it all culminates at the end of the book with the duel between Julius and Subaru. Well, calling it a duel is being generous, obviously it's more bullying than a duel, and I like how the author in the prologue misdirects us into thinking that Subaru is fighting like a fearsome opponent, but by the end of it we're like, yeah, you deserve to get beaten, bro. Even during the duel, he's like trying to throw sand and going for cheap attacks. There's no way we can cheer for our protagonist when he's being this unlikable. We even get this great line by Julius. It seems that you truly have no shame. It must make the vulgarity easy to come by. At the end of the duel, his pride overpowers him and he uses Shamak, ignoring Emilia's words and risking his own health for a duel that essentially means nothing. The volume ends with a very sad argument between Emilia and Subaru. Once again, I praise the author for being able to weave in a lot of realism in these extreme fantasy situations. Emilia even says at one point, "The me inside your head is really something, isn't she?" The conversation is very realistic of a couple going through a bad time, and sure, there's story points such as there's an enforced lack of communication because of the rules of return by death, but still, Subaru did a lot of things wrong in this volume and could have done much better in almost every single way. At the end, Subaru just has an emotional meltdown and lets it all on Emilia, who is really hurt by it, and understandably so. As I've said in previous videos, Emilia is Subaru's pillar. She was always there for him, she was always unconditionally kind to him, and this is the first time where there's a real divide between the two, and it's all Subaru's fault. While it's deserved, the main chapters end on a really depressing note. That day, for the first time in that world, Subaru Natsuki became truly alone. I feel like a disappointed father reading this, honestly. But I can't really feel sorry for Subaru. He dug his own grave. He acted like a fool the entire book. If Volume 3 highlighted his best qualities, then Volume 4 highlights his worst flaws. Pain builds character, so I'm looking forward to review Subaru's redemption in the coming videos. But as you may know, Volume 5 isn't particularly kind to him either, so the pain train will continue. Choo choo! Do I have anything positive to say about Subaru in this volume? I mean, he did keep his promise to the apple seller Kadomon, and also he did save Priscilla from the thugs, so there's two things, I guess. It shows he's not a bad person, he still has good intentions. He's just extremely immature and lets his ego take control of him at the end of the volume. Now let's move on to more positive things and let's talk about the other characters. Volume 4 is where we meet Priscilla Barielle for the first time, and she's the most highlighted royal candidate in this volume. It's weird, I think I should hate her character, but I just can't. I get why some people think she's obnoxious, but I can't help but laugh at all the outrageous things that she says. For better or for worse, she's the star of almost every scene she's in. She's not my favorite ReZero character, probably not even in the top 10, but she's so absurdly over the top that she's just so fun to read. Here are some of my favorite Priscilla quotes. This world is composed solely for my convenience. Nothing occurs that is not to my benefit. It is thanks to me that I was saved. All is rock bottom except for me. The world has me and all else is beneath. Nothing happens in this world that is not convenient for me. In other words, my intuition is not a reason, for I require none. It is an answer all by itself. Who says this? Just look at this smug face. I should hate the character that is as narcissistic as this, but her charisma just transcends fiction and warps reality. I can't dislike her. I don't know why. Usually the cliché is that this is her persona and she has a sweet side to her. Well, if she does, we barely see it in this volume. I can only think of two instances when she resembles a normal human being with proper emotions. The first is when Subaru tells the story of when he asked Emilia his name and she says that she approves, so this must be her idea of romance, I guess. The other one is when she brings Subaru to the castle. She says it's for her amusement, which is probably true, although we later get to know that Al asked her to, and she was also grateful for the apples, so she does have something that resembles empathy, maybe. Her relationship with Al is also very funny. It's probably one of the best parts of the volume. He is just used to her shenanigans, so he just rolls with it and tries to cool her down when he can. I love Al. He's one of my favorite characters in this volume. He's such a bro, and he's always so unreactive, which is why he's such a good partner for Priscilla. During the trip to the castle, he reveals that he's also another whirler from Japan, and when I was reading volume 4 for the first time, I was super shocked that they skipped this in the anime. Why would they skip such important information? Besides being the straight man to Priscilla's antics, Al can also be very unintentionally funny, such as when Emilia first met him, he was apparently looking for Priscilla inside garbage bins, which I don't know if it's a mistranslation or not, but it made me laugh out loud. Al is always looking out for Subaru, probably because he's also from Japan, so they understand each other in a way no one else can. He tries to convince Priscilla to bring him to the castle, and then he tries to save him from embarrassment during the ceremony. We discover that Al's face is all burnt up and he's lost an arm, so the man has been through some stuff, and they even say at one point in the narration that this could be future Subaru, which is a very eerie thought. Al is surrounded in mystery, and in my personal opinion he's the character I'm the most curious about, so I'm very much looking forward to read whatever light novel has his backstory. Next up, let's talk a bit about Julius. Julius does seem a bit arrogant at times, but we have to understand that most of the story is told from Subaru's perspective. I can't really dislike Julius. Yes, he can be a bit too strict with his chivalry, and yes, he can be a bit pompous, but you know, at the end of the day, he's just a proud knight that's good at his job. I don't think he did anything necessarily wrong in this volume. Every bad interaction with Subaru was almost 100% Subaru's fault. In the epilogue, we discover that part of the reason for Julius doing the public duel was to stop any stray knight from taking matters into his own hands and possibly killing Subaru, so we understand that Julius never does anything without a reason. He takes a lot of pride in being a knight and does his best to represent knighthood as best as he can. It's hard for me to think of him as this arrogant rival when Subaru is so dislikable in this volume. Honestly, I like Julius. He's very good at playing the bad guy. Now, let's talk about the 5 royal candidates. At one point, one of the elders wonders if these candidates are ready to become monarchs, which I think is a very valid thought. Out of these 5 candidates, the only one I could really see become a good ruler is probably Krusz, and even in the story she's the favorite to become queen. I just don't think any of the other candidates make compelling arguments, but let's break this down first with Krusz. Krusz's main motivation is to stop the kingdom from being so reliant on the dragon. Quoting her own words, "When I become king, I will make us forget about the covenant with the dragon. Until now, come what may. The dragon-friend kingdom of Lugunica belongs not to the dragon, but to us." She wants the nation to be self-reliant and for its people and its rulers to be responsible for all its duties, not the dragon. This seems very drastic and also very destabilizing for the nation, but she brings up some good points. She also seems like a capable ruler from her education and her pedigree. She's also very meritocratic and defends people's personal freedoms, such as when she defended Ferris saying that he can dress however he likes. Both her and her proposal seem level-headed. Let's get to the other candidates. Next up comes Priscilla, who seems like a competent ruler with her region recently prospering under her leadership. But Priscilla is Priscilla. Her main argument is that heaven has chosen her and that she will be the winner and everyone else must serve her. Then comes Anastasia, who also seems like a competent ruler based on her business skills. But her entire argument is that she's very greedy and always wants more, and so she wants a country of her own. What? I guess the idea is that she will fix the country's finances and make it prosper like never before in some sort of hyper-capitalistic society or whatever, but her argument for it is as outrageous as Priscilla's, and that's saying something. Next up comes Emilia, who does a different sort of speech, going off more based on intimidation honestly, and does this whole theater with Roswell and Puck, which gives us this awesome illustration with Puck mean-mugging the audience. She talks about fairness and equality, so I guess she would want a less stratified society, which is okay, but it's clear she doesn't have any plan, nor does she have any experience. Even in her own words, she doesn't really seem very confident that she's fit for the job. Finally comes Feld. Feld quickly sees through Rom's plan to save her. You know, you can't fool Feld. She was raised in the mean streets of Lugunica. You can't fool the street smarts. And so she ends up accepting to be a royal candidate, but just like Emilia, she has no prior experience or a plan, and also she's around 15 years old. In her speech, she says she hates everything, the nobles, the knights, the kingdom itself, so she'll just break it all. Huh? Reinhardt even says that this is still in the realm of fantasy, and obviously a destruction would involve a rebuilding process. Is she the one to do this rebuilding process? The one who wants to plunge the country into anarchy in the first place? It seems a little bit nonsensical. Once again, I know, this is a light novel, things are supposed to be condensed, this is supposed to be short, and it's supposed to be fun. I definitely didn't want to read the tax policy of any of the candidates. And I know this is a kingdom, it's not a democracy, so the opinion of the general populace doesn't really matter. But I don't see how out of these 5 royal candidates anyone besides maybe Krusz could be a good ruler. Finally, for my general thoughts. There were some funny moments here and there, such as the shock at Ferris being a dude, the fact that people from Kararagi use Kansai dialect, and the fact that Subaru brought mayonnaise into this world also made me smile. Roswell was also portrayed as much more of a mastermind in this volume. In volumes 2 and 3 we can see that he's planning something, but he's very much a spectator. Here he plays more of an active role, taking various measures behind the curtain to make sure that Subaru makes it to the ceremony and nobody knows why. The Roswell subplot is very interesting and leaves the audience wondering just how much does he know and what is he planning. After some comments from previous videos, I decided to check out this Google Doc, which contains translation errors for the Yen Press releases. For volume 4, I found nothing worthy of mention. Overall, as I've explained, I'm very biased against volume 4, so reviews in the future will be more positive, although I think some of you enjoyed watching me suffer. If I had to give an MVP for volume 4, it would be either to Priscilla for the entertainment or to Julius for playing the heel role so well. But you know what, someone had to put Subaru in his place. tough love as we call it. My MVP for volume 4 is Julius. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing, and I will see you on the next review for volume 5. Bye bye.